probably hear it.
Possibly. Right, it's just going to go live, hopefully, now. Setting up your meeting for Facebook Live.
Oh, I can turn it off.
Done. Redirecting to Facebook Live page. Oh, 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 here we go. Am I there? Can't see a thing. It's live now. Yay! We are here. Finally.
Okay.
Woohoo. Right, there you go. I'm going to put us up there. I'm going to breathe now. That took 22 minutes to get us live on Facebook. Yay! But we've done it. We've cracked it. I finally found a room where the internet works. That's awesome. Welcome everyone and anyone who's actually watching us live, and anyone who's going to join us on Zoom, or anyone who watches the replay. Please put comments down below on Facebook. Andrea will let us know about the comments, and if you join us in Zoom, you can actually have a proper chat with us too. So the link is now on Facebook, the new one. So just to introduce ourselves really quickly, I'm Sarah Brenchley. I'm a naturopath, nutritionist and herbalist, and the other person on the other side of me is...
Hi, I'm Andrea, and I am your health and fitness professional.
Awesome. This reminds me of the Brady Bunch. Do you remember that TV series where all the pictures of the family were either side of each other and looking at each other? Or not? Maybe I'm just really showing my age because that was a thing in the 70s. Anyway, so today we're going to talk about weight gain and weight loss. We put out a survey, and this was one of a few topics that came up as being something that is an issue for women, particularly in their 40s, as we're going into perimenopause, and then menopause and postmenopause out the other side as well. So what I'm going to do is just start talking a little bit about some of the reasons why we put on weight and the things that we can do to lose weight, and then Andrea is going to talk to you also about the exercise aspect. So if you've got questions, please put them in the comments and we'll try and have time to answer them at the end. If not, if there's any questions that we get after the live, you can put replay, write down your questions. When we meet up again on Thursday, hopefully at 10 o'clock, we can actually address some of those questions too. So the first thing I want to say is there's a concept of energy in, energy out, and it's really simple, and to some extent that is as simple as it gets. If you eat more energy then you expand when you're doing some form of exercise, you are going to put weight on, and it really is that simple. However, there are other things that play a role in making that a little bit more complex too. So a lot of the clients that we have on our program, when I look at their diet, the same things come up, and they are the women that have problems with weight, and so that's some of the things that I'm focusing on. There's heaps of reasons why people might put weight on and not to be able to lose it, but I'm going to pick on the things that I see coming up frequently. And I would say the number one thing that I see is snacking. Sometimes the amount of energy that we get, so energy is basically mainly found in protein, fat and carbohydrate, and also alcohol to some extent. Our fat is the most energy dense, so obviously if we eat a lot of that, if we're not expending some kind of energy, then we're kind of storing it somewhere. It's like going shopping and putting everything in a cupboard. If you don't eat it up and use it, the cupboards just get full and more full and more full. So what happens is sometimes women are really good at the breakfast, the lunch and the dinner, but then the snacks that they eat, because they don't eat enough protein or fat, say for breakfast, or for lunch they just have lettuce or coffee for breakfast and lettuce for lunch, they're hungry by 10 o'clock, so they snack at 10, and then they snack at 11, and they have lunch at 1, and then they snack at 3, and then they snack at 5, and then they have dinner at 7, and then they have a snack at 9 or 10 o'clock at night before they go to bed. And when you end up the energy that all of those snacks make up, it's actually bigger than their 3 meals during the day. And so they might be eating really well at breakfast, lunch, and dinner, but the snacks themselves are creating so much energy, they're storing that. So it's really important, number one, to make sure that you eat enough protein and fat, because carbs are generally not the problem. We usually eat way too much carbs and nowhere near enough protein. Usually fat and carbs are the two things we eat a lot of, and protein is the thing we eat not enough of. So if you up your protein in particular, and make sure you've got fat with your carb for breakfast, lunch and dinner, generally you won't be so hungry that you need to snack. So make sure you've got a balance of those, the protein, fat, and your carbohydrates. Make sure you eat breakfast. Now, I find for a lot of women, eating breakfast at 10 o'clock and then having your last meal at 6 or 7 is also a really good way of condensing your calories and your energy into a short window, because then that gives your body a chance to actually use that and regenerate itself and kind of do all the things that it needs to do to kind of spring clean the body. That's called time restricted eating, and that's something we do talk about on the program. It's something you can find out about as well, and it's becoming more, there's more and more research coming out about how that can help with weight loss. It helps with hormones, it helps with heart health, all sorts of things. Not easy for everybody, but if you can try and if you eat your dinner later at night, then try and have your breakfast later in the morning. But you don't want to wake up and have coffee at 8 o'clock in the morning and then have breakfast at lunchtime. That's pointless. So you just be drinking water until you have your breakfast at 10. I find for me, I've lost weight just on doing that. So just be careful about snacking. You also find that when you're snacking continuously, you never go into fat burning mode either. You're always burning off glucose because it's nearly always carbohydrate-based snacks too. So your body never gets into the chance to start burning off the fat that you've stored because it's still trying to deal with all the carbohydrates that you eat. Or even the fat stored in fat. There's also something called the MMC, which I'm hoping is the motor migratory complex or migratory motor complex or something, but it's MMC, and basically it's like a Mexican wave that works through your gut and it clears everything out. And if we're constantly eating, then we'll never be able to use that, and that then can cause all sorts of gut problems too. So you need to not eat for at least 90 minutes. You need to have your stomach empty in order for that process to work. So if you're eating every hour, then that's never going to clear everything out, and that process is then not going to function properly and you're going to have gut problems. The other thing is hormones. So obviously at our time of life, our hormones are having their own little party. When estrogen drops, we are looking somewhere in our body to make estrogen. And what will happen is, particularly if we're stressed, then we're not going to be making our estrogen from our adrenals. And I'm going to talk about stress in a minute. So the next place that we go to is our fat cells. So they make estrogen. So if we are really low in estrogen and we're really stressed, then our body will make estrogen in our fat cells. It will hold on to our fat cells in order to make sure that it's got its building blocks, and it won't allow us to lose weight because it needs to hold on to those fat in order for us to make estrogen. Also, progesterone, when that drops, progesterone is really important for our kind of fluid balance as well, and so we can end up getting kind of fluid retention, which can make us feel really bloaty and fat and swollen ankles, and that makes us fat when actually it's not fat, it's fluid, and that can be because progesterone drops. Also they've noticed that when progesterone is high and estrogen drops, and there's an imbalance between those, that can also cause binge eating. So again, it's really important we have a look at what's going on with your hormones and address that balance, because that can make us want to eat, and it can also make us not want to get rid of our body won't want to get rid of the fat. The other thing is testosterone, and that's again when exercise comes in, because testosterone builds muscle. There's also something called human growth hormone, which also builds muscle. It's linked to testosterone, and it also encourages fat burning. So if we're not exercising, if we're not putting muscle on, muscle replaces the fat. If we have low testosterone, then we're missing out on the hormone that will help us build muscle too. So again, we need the exercise, but we also need to be addressing any kind of hormone imbalance so that we've got what we need in order for our body to do the job it needs to do. Stress is massive. When we've got increased cortisol, and I know at the moment stress is huge for everyone. We're sitting down, we're snacking, we're not moving because we are scared to go out, and we're stressed. So this is like a fat storm in a bottle already. When we're stressed, cortisol is kind of it's a chronic stress hormone. We need it, it's fantastic, but when we have it in too much, or we have it in too big amounts for too long, it's actually not good for us. And what cortisol does is it will hold on to our fat, and it will stop us losing that fat, because it's scared that we're going to starve to death. It's scared that we need to survive. And so losing fat is just not going to happen because we need fat for survival. So you might be stressed and eating lots of biscuits and bliss balls, but you're not going to, that's going to be stored, and you're not going to lose what you put on because your body's thinking, oh my God, we're all going to die. Right, so I'm going to hold on to this fat so we can make estrogen. I'm going to hold on to this fat so that you survive in this famine or war or whatever's going on outside that you're stressed about, regardless of whether it's to do with the virus or whether it's to do with work, whether it's to do with kids. The body doesn't know. Your body just knows you're stressed. So dealing with that stress, finding a way to manage that stress is probably up there along with the snacking. It's massive, and there are so many women that are stressed and feel that they have to bring everybody together. Everyone has to be happy, and it's their job to make everyone happy. And with all the stress of kids and work and husbands and partners and everything, it's huge. And so we have to find a way to deal with it, and snacking is not the way to deal with it. Snacking just makes it worse. And then the other thing is sleep. So when you're stressed, or when your hormones are out of whack and you've got hot flushes, you've got night sweats, sleep is impacted. And sleep is huge too, because sleep, we produce melatonin, and melatonin has this relationship with cortisol. So cortisol goes down and melatonin comes up. If we're stressed, cortisol stays high, melatonin is low. And melatonin is important because that produces heat, and that heat basically, it creates something called brown fat, and that burns off the white fat, which is the fat we don't want. And so you can't lose weight if you don't sleep well. Sleeping is so important because it will help us to burn fat off too. So I would say the other two things is with diet, I see a lot of women having a lot of fat and a lot of carb and not a lot of protein, as I said at the beginning. And when you have fat and carbohydrate together, those two things together will also create a lot of fat in our body. It's kind of, the two together do not go, which is why some people do really well on a low-fat diet, and some people do really well on a ketogenic diet, because a ketogenic diet is basically really high-fat, low-carb. Now, that doesn't suit everybody because everyone's different, but the reasons why those diets both work for a lot of people is because you've only got one. So it's better to not have any fat. If you have completely no fat in your diet, then that will cause all sorts of problems too. But for some women, a lower fat diet might suit them, but we're talking, moderately low. We're not talking no fat whatsoever. And for some people, having a high fat diet really suits them, but it depends on how you do it. And really, something like a ketogenic diet is a very therapeutic diet. It needs to be managed properly. And I would say the best diet out there, research-wise, is the Mediterranean diet. It has lots of fat in it. It has small amounts of carbs, and it has protein. But it's vegetables and fruit. It's everything that we need. Mediterranean diet, so much research on it that shows how good it is for everything. There's no research to show it's bad, unlike a lot of the other diets. So if you wanted to follow a diet, follow the Mediterranean diet. The other thing to know is that there's research looking at, obviously you could do any diet and lose weight. And using shakes and smoothies is the easiest way to lose weight fast, which in some ways might be good if you are really having problems and it's creating you problems with your health and you have to lose weight quickly for health reasons. But the biggest problem is how we keep that weight off. And there's something called a set point in the body, whereas if you lose weight, whether it's slowly or whether it's quickly, the body gets comfortable with the weight you once were, and it will always try and go back to the weight you once were, because that's safe. It thinks that because you've lost a stone or kilograms or whatever it is in metric, it will think you're starving to death. It needs to protect you. Your body loves you. Your body doesn't do anything to harm you, really. Everything it does is because it cares about you. So it's trying to get you back to the weight you were in order to stop you from starving to death. And so some of the research that's coming out now, this is the big thing. Everyone wants to know, how do you keep the weight off? So doing it in a way where sometimes you have to eat really bland, because then we get caught up in the salt and the sweet, and that's what we crave. We don't crave bland. So sometimes eating blander food can help to start with. There are definitely probiotics that there's certain probiotics that are showing can help with that tipping point and stop us going back to that set point. But trying to eat, when you go on these really hard diets, it's really hard when they're restricted to not go back to the way you were eating. So in some ways, it's about the mindset. It's about creating new routines. It's about creating food where you're bringing lots of food in and you're not feeling like you're missing out, because that also makes it hard. So it's a mix of what you're eating, it's a mix of the gut bacteria that you've got, and it's a mix of mindset as well. And it's kind of, that's too big to kind of talk now, but it's something to bear in mind. And there is a lot of research going on about how we can support people so that they keep the weight off. When you've got balanced hormones, when you're dealing with the stress and you're sleeping well and you're moving and you've got your snacking under control, a lot of the time you'll find that your weight just goes back to the way it once was anyway. I've certainly found for myself that moving every day, not snacking, controlling my stress, I've lost weight from not doing anything massive. I haven't really changed my diet hugely, but just I'm not snacking because I'm not as stressed as I used to be, believe it or not, even when the technology turns to shit. That in itself has meant I've lost weight just from not being stressed. You know, eating breakfast at 10 o'clock and eating my dinner at 6 or 7. I've lost weight just doing that. And so everyone's different. It's about finding the thing that works for you in your situation and then trying to do that and creating new routines. So I don't know if, Andrew, you want to talk a little bit about the exercise part of this, which is massive.
Yeah, so Tanya says hi.
Hi, Tanya.
We've got no questions or anything yet, but yeah, so exercise, it's interesting when I look at people's exercise, when they tell me what they're doing as far as exercise goes, it's either, there seems to be no kind of like middle ground. Like for some there are, but it's either way too much or not enough. So with exercise, we definitely need to be exercising. We need to be moving. And strength training, the way that we move in perimenopause, menopause, as we get older, needs to be different to what we did when we were in our 20s and 30s, because our bodies are already stressed with all the stuff going on. When we exercise is actually a stress on the body. So if we're doing it in the wrong way, then it's going to be putting more stress on our body. And you'll sometimes hear of these women who like, I go to the gym like 6 times a week, and I do like, you know, like some of them like do like, you know, 1 class in the morning and 1 class in the afternoon, or 2 in the morning and 1 in the afternoon, and they can't understand why they're losing weight. Well, their body is just so stressed from all that exercise that it's actually doing the opposite effect of what they actually think that they're going to achieve. So exercise definitely needs to change after 40, like when we late 40s, when we kind of start getting into this perimenopause, menopause stage. So we definitely need to move. Like, we don't want to be doing nothing, but we don't want to be doing too much as well. And there's been reports of people before who were like runners, you know, they would like run every day and they'd do high intensity classes. And for one reason or another, they were made, either they got an injury or they went on a retreat or something like that, and they were made to stop. And then they were just doing like yoga or Pilates, or, you know, bringing it right down, and they lost weight and their bodies were better than what they were when they were pounding the pavement 6 times a week. So we really need to be like scaling it back a little bit, and we want to still be doing getting our heart rate up, but just not to the point of like smashing ourselves, you know, 5 times a week. So that's probably good news for some.
That's awesome news.
Yeah. And also what's really important is also doing something that you really enjoy doing, because we want exercise to be enjoyable and we want it to be something that we do for the rest of our lives. So you don't want to be going for runs if you hate running, basically, pretty much what I say to everybody. So women definitely need to be doing some type of strength training, whether that's body weight or with weights preferably. If you have got injuries or there's specific reasons why you can't do strength training, things like Pilates, stuff like that is really good. So we definitely need to be strength training for our bones and our muscle, which are declining rapidly at this point. So even if that's just once a week, probably no more than twice, I'd say. we want to be having days where we're doing like active recovery. Either you can have complete rest day, or you can do something like walking, yoga, Pilates, meditation, something like that is kind of like what we call active recovery. We want to be doing a whole lot more of those types of things than spin classes, for example.
Yeah.
And also, so there's 3 different components, and also when I say you want to be kind of getting your heart rate up, we can still do high intensity interval training, but it just needs to change slightly. So the old kind of way, or the general way, is we do like 30 seconds work, 10 seconds rest, for example. So 30 seconds where you get your heart rate up as high as you can, so you're like way out of breath, and then you rest for 10 seconds. Well, we want to just be changing the way we do our high intensity. So what we would do is we would work for a set amount of time. So we might work for 30 seconds, and then we rest until we get our breath back, until we've recovered, and then we go again. So instead of just resting for like the 10 seconds, we rest until we've recovered, and then we go again, and we just go as hard as we can. We don't have to push ourselves till we feel like we're dying. We just need to get that heart rate up as much as we can till we're huffing and puffing, out of breath, because we still want to be huffing and puffing. And then we just rest until we feel better, till we can breathe again, till we feel kind of like, semi-normal again, and then take it up again. So that's kind of like the way that we want to be doing high intensity training. And you can do that 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 20 minutes. High intensity training shouldn't be for a long period of time. Like, you don't really want to be doing that for an hour. The idea of it is to get your heart rate up, so you're puffing enough that it's high intensity enough that you can't do it for a really long time. So you could probably, like, the max you could do it for is like 20 minutes. Doing that twice a week would be fine, but you probably don't. You can do it for 10 minutes. You can build up, probably no more than 20. You don't want to really be doing that for like an hour, because it's a lot of stress on the body. Yes, which is not what we're wanting at the moment, at this time. So things like walking, swimming, yoga, Pilates, meditation, strength training, and a little bit of high intensity, however that looks for you. If you like running and you don't have dodgy knees, or you can do it, then do it, but just don't do it 6 times a week. So, and just, if you feel like you want to get your heart rate up a little bit while you are out walking, then just, run to a lamppost, and then walk, and then jog a bit, and then walk, and then jog a bit and walk. If you feel like that can be your high intensity training, then just do something like that. Or if you've got a treadmill, put it on an elevated, on an incline, walk incline for a little bit, then take it back down. So that could be your high intensity training as well. So yeah, we just need to scale things back a little bit, rather than, slamming ourselves like we used to do when we were 20. Our bodies just don't work that way anymore. And we really need more calming and relaxation type stuff than we do, smashing ourselves with 6 high intensity classes a week at the moment. But yeah, strength training is for me like number one important. I think everyone should be strength training, and that's what's actually going to make you see the physical most results in your body as well. And that's basically only if you can do it, if you don't have any injuries or anything like that. If you can do it, I would definitely be doing that if you can manage that. Otherwise, if you can't manage strength training, then definitely do something like Pilates, because that would be really good as well. But just whatever you can do. And
take it if someone has an injury, that there's going to be different levels of weights anyway. So at the moment my shoulder's getting better, and I can now do that where I couldn't have done that at Christmas. So we're doing, just kind of stretching out and doing that to start with, and then maybe picking up a can of beans and doing it, and then you'd build it up over time anyway, wouldn't you? So if people have got an injury, that shouldn't be a reason to not move in some way.
No, as long as it's like, if you have got an injury, as long as it's okay, you've had the clearance from like your physio or osteo, whoever you're working with, and they said that it's all right to do it, because some and another thing with strength training, make sure that you get a proper program done, or like being taught to do it correctly through someone such as myself, or someone like a trainer from the gym, or someone out like that, because there's lots of really silly exercises out there as well which do cause more injury, and that's a lot of shoulder stuff as well. So I'd be like really careful with your shoulders, about doing things over your head and stuff like that, like because I had bursitis in my shoulder, and if I do anything like that with my shoulders, it just hurts, still hurts. But yeah, so there's like, you know, big compound exercises, they work everything, work your shoulders, like you know, your press-ups work your shoulders, your chest, your triceps, like 3 different compound exercises are the best, like your press-ups, well, we won't go chin-ups because not many of us are doing
I don't do chin-ups. I don't think I've ever done chin-ups. Maybe when I was 18 and drunk.
Yeah, like just big exercises that work like 2 to 3 different muscle groups in the one movement. So like your squats, your lunges, your leg press, but that doesn't really work for people at home. So we've got all those kind of like exercises, safe exercises in our program anyway for you to do. But squats, lunges, press-ups, dumbbell rows, tricep dips, things like that. Yeah, and if you have weights, great. If you haven't got any, I would just invest in some, maybe the adjustable ones that you can, you know, you can adjust the weights. So you can have them as light or as heavy as you want as you progress. But strength training is super important, and that's where you will see the most physical change on your body as well. Like if you're walking every day, for example, that's all you do is walk. Well, that's great. That's fantastic, but you're not really going to see much tone or physical change or muscle growth in your body if you just walk every day. For example, you know what I mean? So it depends what your goal is, really.
Tanya's just asked, can the HIIT be like a really fast walk?
Yeah. So yeah, like everyone has to work within their means, you know. And I know Tanya has had some like issues, like with some like injuries and stuff like that. So yeah, like if that's, you have to do with what you can manage, you know what I mean? So yeah, I would definitely. Yeah, you could do a fast.
She's doing a really fast walk, and as long as she's huffing and puffing, and it's kind of, because someone could just walk to the top of the drive and huff and puff. So for them,
yeah, exactly. Yeah, hills, you know, walking up hills, that gets your heart rate up.
Oh yes.
Yeah. So yeah, definitely walking is fine. We'll just get some hills in there, walk fast, you know. Yeah, and then just incorporate, as you know, even if you can't, if there's something up with your knees and you can't do squats and stuff like that, then just do some upper body work, you know, or just do some Pilates or something like that. Just do something else at home as well as walking to just build strength.
Yeah. So that answers Andy's question, because Andy was saying, does the rowing machine and Pilates count as strength training? So you're saying that Pilates does count as strength training. I guess so a rowing machine would.
A rowing machine would be more cardio.
Okay.
If you could do HIIT in the rowing machine. So you could row, you know, just gently for a minute, and then you could row like fast until you're like out of breath, and then you could take it back again and then go fast again, back again. So you could do your HIIT on the rowing machine. And then yeah, the Pilates is fine if you can, Andy, if you can use weights and do strength, then I would do strength training as well. But Pilates is great. Like I think, I don't do it, but I think Pilates is great. Yeah.
I used to do it, and it was. I did it because I'm old. Well, I was old at 18 when I had a knee problem, and I had a physio who was really into Pilates, and it was fantastic because it works on your core. It means that all of the knee problems. They didn't go away, but the difference was massive, because actually all of a sudden I had a tight stomach and I had a really strong back, and then it meant that had an impact on all of my joints, and so that was really, really good.
Yeah, I think Pilates is good. Like if you know, if you, I think it's great, especially if you've got injuries, you know, like that Pilates and yoga and stuff like that. Like those girls who do the Pilates and yoga and stuff, like their bodies are amazing. Like they're like lean and strong, and and it'd be really good for your mind as well, for stress. Nothing wrong with Pilates and yoga, at all, as long as you're doing them with a really good teacher, which I'm not.
And sometimes the Pilates are physios, and I've always, personally, I'll probably get slammed for this, but I've always found that the Pilates teachers who have a physio background sometimes the better, because they really understand the body. They're really good at working with injuries, and so I've some of the best Pilates teachers I've known have been ex-physio. I apologise if there's any Pilates teachers out there who aren't ex-physio, and I will piss them off now. There's one other question that Tanya's just asked, not about exercise, but about eating bread again. Could this be giving me headaches, or is it just pure stress? That's $1 million question. When we give up food for a long time and then we bring food back, if it's a food that doesn't love us, then we can have a reaction. And so it could be that all of a sudden you're getting headaches from bread when you didn't have it before, but it might have been that you actually didn't feel great when you ate bread before. You might have had really mild headaches, or even a foggy head, and that's just the normal, so you don't even question it. And then you don't eat bread for a while, and then you bring it back, and then all of a sudden you've got a headache. That's because your body's become so sensitive, because it has a chance to kind of recover, that it might be that bread is just not your friend and you shouldn't eat it. Now, sometimes when we have problems with food, it's because our gut's not as healthy as it should. Fix the gut, all of a sudden the food problems go away. But sometimes it's just that food isn't, we just aren't friends with food. So I'm not friends with dairy. I love dairy, but dairy doesn't love me. And I've learned I can have a little bit, but I can't have too much. And there's a threshold. If I go over that threshold, then I feel like shit. So it might be for you, Tanya, that stress might be exacerbating that, but it might just be that you and bread are not friends. And it might just be for a short period of time. It might be if you just had a little bit of bread once a week, it would be okay. It might be having bread every day is not good for you. So it's about playing around with what works. So can you have a little bit of bread and it be okay, or is bread something that perhaps you shouldn't have? It might be the type of bread you're having. So it might be that sourdough bread doesn't affect you, but brown whole grain bread does. So it's about playing around, but it's I suspect what's happened is that you've just removed it from your diet, you brought it back, and now you're reacting to it because you are actually quite sensitive to possibly the wheat. It could be the yeast. So that's worth kind of having a play to find out, is it just bread? Is it wheat products? Is it yeast products? What is it? And then that in itself might open up, or is it, if it's yeast, is it because of some kind of imbalance of bacterial yeast in your gut that's causing that? So there's probably more to investigate. It's probably not as simple as that, but I suspect it's because you've removed the bread and now you've become extra sensitive to it. I think. Are there any more questions? I don't think we've got any more questions. Anything else you want to say?
Is it just pure stress?
Just in case you're wondering why I'm fidgeting, it's because I'm actually sitting on my bedroom floor, which is a really rock hard wooden floor, and it's really hurting my bum.
Yay to calming, says Andy. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, we all need a bit of calming at the moment.
Yeah. Really, yeah. No, that's no more questions.
Awesome.
That's it. Yeah, no, that's good. Like, if anyone has any more extra questions, just pop them down and we'll answer them.
We'll answer them next time. Tanya's just said that no, but that was really helpful, so that's awesome.
Good.
Cool. And I think on Thursday we're going to talk about alcohol. Is that right? We're going to talk about alcohol, so you might not want to listen. But I'm going to talk about a subject I'm going to find really hard to talk about, but it's the reasons why alcohol and hormones don't always mix. But I'm not going to tell you not to drink alcohol. I'm just going to talk to you about what alcohol does and why it's probably better to not drink a half a bottle of wine after you've had a really bad day with technology. And there's a story there. Yeah. So we'll see you on Thursday at 10 a.m. Hopefully the technology will work at 10 a.m. and not 10:15, but at least I know I can always kind of sit on the bedroom floor and it works in here. So we'll we'll see you on Thursday. Have a wonderful week. Take care of yourselves. Great to see you too, Andy. Take care of yourselves, and we'll see you then. All right.
Okay.
See you guys. Bye-bye. Take care. Now I've got to learn how to turn this off.
Oh, yeah.